Now, I used to smoke weed all the time, every day, for a good 7 years straight. Start this year though, I stopped smoking, and this is exactly why. So to start off this story, we're going to go back in time to the first ever doob. Now I, like many other people, was very young when I started smoking. One of my good friends managed to steal a little bit from his brother, and then we went out into some abandoned place, rolled up one doob, and that was it. We were all flying. And then from that point on, the first year that I started smoking, it gradually just increased and increased, from it being a thing I would do every few weeks to a thing I would do every single day. And then as the years passed, it became not only a daily thing, but an all-day thing. So morning till night, I would just wake up, get stoned, smoke all throughout the day, and then rinse and repeat on the next one. Now I also just want to say, I'm not anti-weed. I think weed can be great, it's a great bit of fun, but there is definitely a right and a wrong way to use it. But one of the main reasons why I stopped earlier this year, which also it took me a good few attempts to stop. It probably took me a good year to actually fully come off it and fully quit, because I would just keep on going back to it. I might have a good couple weeks where I was able to take some time off, but then I'd go right back to it, try and have some control with it, but before I know it, I'm smoking every day again, waking and baking. A lot of the content on this channel as well used to mainly be sort of weed driven and weed focused. One of the main reasons that I quit, at the start of the year, so I think it must have been either January or February, so it's been a good 6 months or so. What month is it now? August? Yeah, about 6 months, thereabouts. And don't get me wrong, I will actually still smoke weed every once in a while, but it's actually a once a month or maybe not even that sort of thing anymore. But after all those years of smoking, the side effects, the symptoms really started to show. I'd get a lot more paranoid. I was isolating myself a lot more, and I had done that throughout the entire time that I was smoking pretty much. Being able to just get that instant gratification of dopamine when you light up a doob. It really keeps you comfortable. Makes you content with just doing the same thing day in and day out and not really getting out much. So I was very sort of isolated, especially due to the fact that some of my prime smoking years were during COVID, a time we were all isolated anyway. So the two things kind of added up to make it a whole lot worse. And that's the thing, you don't really notice. When you're stoned all the time, you don't really notice how much it's affecting you. You feel fine, you feel happy, you feel great, but it becomes so easy to just isolate yourself and keep on just smoking day in, day out, not actually achieving much or doing anything. Now, I'm not saying that if you smoke weed, you're not going to achieve anything or, it's going to hold everyone back. But in my personal case, I felt like it definitely was. And once I stopped smoking, I noticed, a lot of changes. I was able to socialize more, get out of the house more. I didn't have as much anxiety, and especially the paranoia. That all went away, after about a month of, quitting. But those are just very basic reasons. One of the biggest reasons why I actually stopped smoking weed was something that started around 5 years ago now. So after about 2 to 3 years of just constant daily smoking, and also I would smoke not only weed, but I would have hash in my doobs, I would rip bowls, I'd get live resin extracts, all that sort of fancy stuff, and that really increases your tolerance. And all these things led to me developing CHS, or at least the early stages of it. Now this was a really big kick in the balls, because everything would seem fine when I'm at home, I'm just smoking all the time, I've got no issues, I can eat food, I can sleep at night, it's all going great. But there was a few times where I would, go on a little trip somewhere, or a small holiday or something like that, and that's when the issues really started to rise. As soon as I didn't have the THC in my system, I would feel really nauseous anytime I ate food. I'd really struggle to keep food down as well. There was a few times where I had very serious bouts of just constant vomiting, and that's one of the symptoms of CHS. And if you don't know what CHS is, it's cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. It's basically where the THC sort of over-regulates your body. So once you don't have that constant THC anymore, your body sort of forgets how to regulate itself. Now this doesn't happen to everyone, but it is an increasing thing as THC levels get higher. Weed gets stronger. We now have THC vapes and all these other fancy ways of consuming weed. But yeah, this is the main one that affected me a lot, because I'd go out with some family or something, go somewhere for a few days, and then I'd end up getting violently ill by the end of it, not able to go out and eat and enjoy a meal. I couldn't actually eat food without smoking first. And even sometimes when I would smoke, it would still be a struggle to eat food properly. The thing is, a lot of people get these symptoms as well and have no idea that it's even connected to the weed. The amount of people that end up in the emergency room or in hospital because they have CHS and the doctors don't even know what's going on, it's an alarming statistic that's on the rise. But yeah, that was one of the main reasons why I quit, because it was so difficult to manage not being able to live without it. Especially the insomnia. The insomnia was one of the worst bits, because throughout my whole life I've always had insomnia, but at this point it was just worse. The first few times you start smoking, the first year, maybe a bit after, you're in the honeymoon phase. Everything's great, you know, it's always a good high, it becomes really enjoyable. But then it's so easy to just up and up the amount that you're actually smoking. Before I quit at the start of this year, so it would be the end of last year, I was smoking around an eighth to a queue a day, which was also very expensive. And that was also one of the reasons why I would be isolating myself a lot, because I didn't actually have money to go out, because I was spending it all just on weed. Now I'll say this again, this video isn't necessarily anti-weed. What I want to do is tell my story and help people make a better decision on how they should use it. Because even I still smoke every once in a while, and I do enjoy it. But it's a very rare occasional thing now, and because of that as well, I actually get higher. You know, it feels more like the good old days where you'd actually get nicely stoned. But once your tolerance gets really high, smoking just doesn't do as much anymore. You know, you have a doob and you just sort of feel normal. There's a light buzz in the background, but it becomes your new baseline. But yeah, I did really used to love weed. I loved it so much, but it would just hold me back in so many different ways. And it led to a point where I was just like really depressed for a long period of time, because it was just, you know, constant isolation and just constant smoking. I think part of the problem is as well, you know, the modern weed industry. It's always trying to make something stronger, something better. And there's also this promotion of, you know, like smoke weed every day. Now, I'm not blaming Snoop Dogg for this, but, you know, it does kind of have an influence on people, especially, you know, as these kids, they grow up with YouTube and social media, and they see other people just smoking every single day and they think it's all right. Which, if you want to do that, it's all your choice. But it is definitely important for people to know that doing something every day is going to have an effect in some sort of capacity. Now, not everyone's going to get CHS, not everyone's going to get paranoia, but most people, if they do it too much, they are going to have some sort of side effect. Another thing that I noticed though as well, because I was making a lot of TikTok videos last year, and I would be scripting them out. It's the Forrest and Slater skits. I'm writing scripts for these, and I'd be able to, you know, perform the lines and recite them well enough. But the short-term memory, the way that weed affects your short-term memory, it was a lot harder. And this is one reason why I wanted to stop as well, because I noticed I was able to recite the lines on the script so much better. I was able to talk more clearly when I wasn't stoned. I think there was definitely this like phase as well of like denial. I think most stoners go through this as well. They sort of deny that anything sort of bad is happening, or they have any negative effects, or they downplay the negative effects of it. And that's because they feel fine, they feel comfortable. Weed makes you feel so comfortable that you just don't need anything to change, or you don't, you know, there's not this necessity to make any positive changes. You know, as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you can't see that it's broke, then you're still not going to fix it. And some things do need fixing. Now, I'm still a big advocate of having legal weed. I don't think weed should be illegal at all. I don't think anyone should be criminalized for doing it, or, you know, being involved with that world. I think it's a wonderful world that could have many benefits, especially in the medical industry, like the medical benefits of what medical cannabis can do to people, like, especially with like things like epilepsy, stuff like that. It's pretty astonishing. I do think it should be accessible as well as legal for people to, you know, acquire this stuff easily and not have to go through dangerous sources, or have you know, low quality product and possibly sprayed buds, stuff like that. Especially in the UK, it's a massive issue. The THC vapes, you know, they're all coming from dodgy sources, and the effect of that is a lot of these vapes just have spice in them. So now you've got all these like young teenage kids that want to be stoners that are just spice heads. It's really an unfortunate situation, and a lot of the dangers from that come from the way that the system is set up. But I do think the most important thing is people understand it properly. They understand how to use it properly, and there should be more people, you know, advocating for responsible use. I think it's really important when it comes to any sort of substance that you use it in a conscious way. As soon as it becomes like unconscious use, it becomes an issue. And what I mean by that is, when you're using something, are you making a conscious decision to you know, get the effects from it or something? Or are you just blindly reaching for it because it's that time of day, something like that? Do you understand? Like, if I just habitually wake up and rip a bowl every morning because I've woken up, that's unconscious use. But if I'm, say, wanting to do some meditation, and then I smoke a doob beforehand to get into a deeper meditative state, that's like what the Rastafarians do. You know, that's how they use weed. But if you're using it like that, you're using it in a conscious way. I think that's a massive distinction that needs to be made, and also taught to people how to use things consciously. It's like with tripping as well, on any sort of psychedelics. I always say you want to use it, you know, consciously. You want to trip with intention. Essentially, you want to have an intention, a good reason for why you're doing something, rather than, you know, I'm just trying to get stoned, which is a good enough reason in instances. But if it's like a day in, day out, then you're just unconsciously getting stoned all the time. And then once you're stoned, it's hard to realize all those negative effects that happen. But yeah, that's a good chunk of the story of me smoking weed. And you know, I used to smoke so much fucking weed. There was one period, this was a couple of years ago, when I was getting loads of the live resin extracts in. I'd make edibles, I'd get hash in as well, and I would roll these massive fucking doobs. You know, like I'd put a whole eighth in there, and I'd layer it with hash, keef from my grinder, live resin, and it would be so fucking nice. But my tolerance just went so high from it. It got to the point with that where I couldn't actually smoke a regular doob for a little while after, because it just felt so flat and empty. Like as soon as I started having the live resin, I needed the live resin. But yeah, that's about it for my story on smoking weed. So I hope you found this video useful or insightful in some way. And if you're about to roll up a doob, I hope you enjoy it. But just make sure to consider using it more consciously, perhaps. But all that being said, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also become a member to get access to videos 2 days early. All that being said, we'll see you in a bit.